After his dramatic capture from Venezuela's presidential compound, it was almost as if the US authorities were flaunting Nicolas Maduro for the cameras.
Crazy or what?
Changing vehicles halfway through his journey, allowing overhead news crews to see him and his wife Cilia Flores as they were walked to a waiting helicopter for the short hop over the water to Manhattan. Inside, Maduro appeared at first startled as he entered the court, wishing everyone a happy new year, perhaps still digesting his radically altered fortunes. He then confirmed his name and claimed he'd been kidnapped and was a decent man. His wife sat beside him, her head bandaged from the injuries she sustained during the raid. I was in court a few metres away from Nicolas Maduro as he was being led away. And it was then that the most astonishing part of the hearing happened. A member of the public heckling him, telling him he would pay. Nicolas Maduro replied, "In the name of God, you will see. I will be free."
Cuban people died over there.
Outside the court, MAGA embraced its new allies, those who've campaigned for Maduro's arrest for a decade.
Have the people of Venezuela been liberated? Yes. Are the people happy? Yes, are they marching in the streets? The only thing they cannot talk like me. Do they say thank God to the United States of America? Thank God the President.
But facing off against them
this cowardly and blatant illegal attack
were those who feel Trump has broken international law.
You're not the policeman, even if the charges were true, which they're not, you're not the policeman of the world.
Maduro did not seek bail and will now await trial many months away.
This is a very serious indictment. It's completely consistent with what we would expect from the Southern District of New York United States Attorney's Office. It's a really real substantive United States Attorney's Office of prosecutors that doesn't bring weak cases, doesn't bring politically motivated cases.
I remain deeply concerned that rules of international law have not been respected with regard to the 3 January military action.
Tonight, the United Nations Security Council gathered to discuss the rapidly evolving threats across the Americas, but with the United States veto, it is powerless to act. As nations across what the Trump administration views as its hemisphere nervously watch the fate of Nicolas Maduro and try to calculate what this most unpredictable of US leaders will do next.
And Dan is in New York, where all of that, of course, unfolded today. Dan, I was very struck by the lawyer in your report there saying, actually, you know, this case from his perspective looks pretty solid. What have you made of it and of the chances of actually this turning into a conviction?
Well, this is the 25-page indictment that's been released by the US authorities, and it offers some intriguing glimpses into the case that they will present against Nicolas Maduro. They say that he has issued diplomatic passports, for example, to drug smugglers. He's used planes with diplomatic cover to smuggle drugs. He has been involved in ordering beatings, kidnappings and murders. It says cargo ships with up to 20 tons of cocaine have been ordered to be headed ultimately towards the United States by him. It quotes meetings recorded by confidential Drug Enforcement Agency sources and phone intercept evidence as well. What struck me when he walked into court today was he seemed initially a little hesitant as he walked in and then started greeting everyone, saying Happy New Year to everyone, and then regained his confidence, I thought, as the charges were read to him, attempting to interrupt the judge, proclaiming his innocence. But the trial is still going to be a month away, and he will stand trial in front of a jury picked from New York, and there's no guarantee they will agree with the evidence presented in that dossier.
OK, Dan, thank you very much indeed. Well, President Trump does not so far seem to have much of a plan for Venezuela itself. The Washington Post even reported today he didn't want to give power to the leader of the opposition because she should have turned down the Nobel Peace Prize that he believes belonged to him. It's clear, though, that the president feels emboldened by his move on Maduro. In fact, he's put the entire region on notice. A US op against Colombia's leader sounds good to me, he said. Cuba, in his words, looks ready to fall. And if this is what Mr. Trump has in mind, what might Presidents Putin and Xi think they can get away with?
2,000 miles south of the courtroom drama in Manhattan, and Venezuela's interim president was formally sworn in before the cameras.
El presidente Nicolas Maduro.
Delcy Rodriguez has offered collaboration with the White House. But whether she can navigate a mercurial and emboldened US president who wants to shape Venezuela's future is unclear.
Mi papá, el presidente Nicolás Maduro Moros.
Nicolas Maduro's son told lawmakers in the National Assembly today that his father had been kidnapped by the Americans and that he was still the legitimate leader of the country. Here we are, he declared, fulfilling our duties until you return. The homeland is in good hands, Daddy, and we will hug here in Venezuela. The regime, even without its veteran leader, appears stable. Loyalist rallies have been held in Caracas. Aboard Air Force One last night, Trump broadened out his threats, warning Colombia was also in his crosshairs.
Colombia is very sick too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and...
It sounds good to me.
And he declared that the US would now enforce an 1823 doctrine that saw all of the Americas as Washington's backyard.
We got to have peace. It's our hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine was very important when it was done, and other presidents, a lot of them, they lost sight of it. I didn't lose sight, but it really is, it's peace on earth.
A 4-word post tonight from the State Department made it even starker. This is our hemisphere. Colombia has deployed extra security forces to its border with Venezuela, recognizing the dangers of this new era of instability.
Donald Trump may have framed the Caracas raid as a law enforcement operation, but unmistakably it has triggered a geopolitical crisis right across this region.
The US Armada in the Caribbean is staying in place, quite openly a tool of leverage and intimidation. 21st century gunboat diplomacy. The raid that captured Maduro over the weekend has suddenly made countries from Colombia to Cuba realize they are living in an entirely new world.
And Robert joins me now from Colombia. And Robert, in a way, you posed the question there yourself. Leaders in South America living in an entirely new world, the threats not exactly subtle to them. What happens next?
Well, I mean, take Cuba, for example. The Cuban foreign minister today calling the situation an existential crisis as America continues to impose the blockade on Venezuela. Cuba has essentially lost its key economic lifeline, lost its most important ally for a quarter of a century in terms of its economic and political support. And of course, Donald Trump is surrounded by Cuba hawks, including most notably Marco Rubio, who describes himself as a son of Cuba and who would relish the prospect of regime change in Havana. And then look at Colombia here. The president, Gustavo Petro, has said, look, if America meddles in here, it could very easily reignite the long-standing civil war here. And Tom, there are much more than just regional implications. There are global implications as well. If the United States believes it has the right to control the Western Hemisphere, as you have pointed out, then perhaps China will feel the right to control Asia and Russia the right to control Eastern Europe and the Caucasus. So what was portrayed and projected as this sort of narrow law enforcement operation has really quite profound global diplomatic implications as well.
OK, Robert, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's put all that cheery prospect to Emma and Robert. You know, Robert Moore there saying, you know, this has global implications. Let's begin with you, Emma. Obviously, one implication is for Greenland, part of Denmark, NATO ally. I mean, is it reasonably conceivable the Americans would try and take it over? Would the Danes try and defend it? Would they ask for our help? What happens?
Could they, would they, should they?
Could they, would they, should they? Are they going to? Let's look into the future.
Let's try and break it down a little bit. When Donald Trump was first elected, that first term that seems a different world ago, everybody kind of laughed when Greenland was mentioned, and oh goodness me, he's talking about Greenland. But it's quite clear what he said then, that nobody took particularly seriously, is exactly what he is starting to bring towards fruition now. And what we've seen over the past 72 hours would leave everybody in a position where they think, actually, we can't assume this won't happen. And certainly the Danes are extremely alarmed about it. They've said tonight, supported by the Norwegians and others, that should this go ahead, should Donald Trump attempt to annex Greenland, it would be the end of NATO. Now, that's a warning that they're hoping will resonate with Donald Trump. But let's not forget, this is a man who isn't particularly committed to NATO anyway. And if he went for Greenland, it would be an attack by one NATO member on another. Now, that's the foundation of Article 5 of NATO, that an attack on one is an attack on all. What do you do when somebody from inside turns on you? And I think when you listen to what Donald Trump has been saying, you know, we can see from the map that, you know, Greenland is strategically very important, and he is arguing that he wants it on security grounds, but he was arguing that he needed to take action in Venezuela because of the narco boats, as he described them, and clearly it was more about oil. And I think when you start to look at the situation in Greenland, it will become clear that it is not so much about security, although it is a valid argument that, it is also very much about what Greenland holds, which is incredibly strong natural resources and an awful lot of things that Donald Trump would like access to for money. So yet again, what he's saying may well prove to be true, but his justifications may not be. And this whole attitude of Delta Force diplomacy, and if I want it, I'll have it in any possible way, is something the Danes have every reason to be extremely concerned about.
OK, Robert, we're constantly told that our kit doesn't work without our nuclear, capability doesn't work without the Americans, or half our military kit doesn't work without the Americans. What does Keir Starmer do if Donald Trump tries to take possession of part of a NATO ally?
Well, the least ambiguous thing that he said today in the wake of that astonishing attack on Venezuela is that he would stand by Denmark, which, you know, for the reasons Emma has just said, he has to say because it would be the end of NATO, because, you know, broadly, if he attacks or attempts to use military aggression against Greenland, we are technically at war with America at that point. I mean, the stakes could not be higher in that sense. The problem is, and this is what our intelligence services are telling the Prime Minister, you know, they genuinely fear that, you know, essentially Donald Trump now has a taste for this sort of thing. I mean, you know, just in the last few months, you know, precision bombing on Iran, attacks on ISIS in Nigeria, now this, you know, almost computer game precision with which he takes out the president of Venezuela. So, you know, what the intelligence services describe as this new American exceptionalism you know, an American president with his dander up is causing absolutely profound concern. And look, truthfully, other than saying we're not going to have any of it, but we haven't actually got a plan at the moment to know what to do about any of it. And the words which just resonate with everybody is, I mean, you will have heard Marco Rubio in that incredible press conference saying what the president says he's going to do, he's going to do. I mean, this is serious.